Okay, so now we want to sort of conclude the lesson of capillaries. But before we conclude the lesson of capillaries, let's actually look at the part that is played by lymph nodes, the part that is played by lymph vessels. Okay, so this is the same diagram, and the other vessels that I have now added on this diagram is the lymph vessels. So these are the lymph vessels. Okay, so these lymph vessels, they are found on the side of the capillary veins where we find the vein side, not the artery side. So we will discuss in this lesson what the lymph vessels, the role that they play, right? So the diagram below here still represents the diagram above. It's a simpler version of a diagram. So this side we have got the artery, and on the right hand side we have got the vein, right? So I'm going to give the artery side the name arterial, and the vein side I'm going to call it the venous side. Okay, arterial side and venous side. Okay, it's quite clear on the screen there, right? So the arterial side is the side which delivers the dissolved particles in blood, which are required by our cells. The green small circles, our body cells, right? So this side, blood comes in high pressure, and blood is containing dissolved particles of oxygen, glucose, and other necessary substances for our for our body cells. Okay, so blood comes in high pressure this side. So this side, so this is basically a capillary bed. Okay, this is a capillary bed. Okay, so we have got high pressure. I've indicated negative, so I've indicated positive. So we have got high pressure this side. Okay, so the capillary bed is biologically adapted. It's leaky. The capillary bed, it's leaking for the purposes that it must make it easier to offload what it has to feed to the body cells, as well as absorbing what the body cells are going to give off, right? So now here there is high pressure, and this high pressure will then release the fluids, and these fluids will find their way to the body cells. Okay, right? So this side, as it releases high pressure, remember in the blood we have got white blood cells, we've got the plasma, and so on. So when this fluid is pumped out to be absorbed by our body cells, this side, the pressure, it drops. The pressure drops. That's what we have to understand. Okay, but however, the particles which are contained in the blood, like the plasma and so on, they will not change. So let's say we take a cube, right? Let's say we take a sample of a cube, and in this cube we have got particles of protein, plasma, and so on, and we take the same cube this side, we sample the same cube this side. Okay, what it means is this cube this side is much drier. it's much thirsty. It wants to drink more because there has been a very, very huge loss of fluid this side, right? Which has entered the body cells. So, because this side now, the same cube is having more thirsty particles, this naturally creates osmotic pressure, and there has to be a balance. So there's going to be some fluid. This causes the fluid that is being given off by the body cells to flow on the venous side of our capillary bed, right? But however, what is important here is to discuss this scenario. Let us say we have got 10 particles of fluid that has been lost from the arterial side, or rather that has been offloaded to the body cells. It's not the same number of the particles that have been offloaded that comes into the venous side. So this side, let us say we have got 8 particles that have come to the venous side. So 10 particles have entered the body cells and 8 particles have been discharged, okay, from the body cells to the venous. So we still have a deficit of 2. There is 2 extra particles of fluid. Now this is where our lymph vessels come into play. Lymph vessels are meant to absorb these 2. So these 2 will be absorbed by the lymph vessels, and then they will find their way back to the blood circulation again. Okay, so the lymph vessels play a very important role because they take these 2 that have been left out, these 2 particles of fluid that have been left out, and to the cycle again. Now, let's say there is a blockage. Let's say there is a blockage, or think of any part. Could it be here? Could it be here on the lymph vessel? Let's say there is a blockage there. When there is a blockage there, it means that the number of extra fluid particles that we have, in this case 2, will keep on accumulating in the lymph vessels and won't be taken anywhere because there is a blockage. Now, this will cause the lymph vessels to swell. The lymph vessels will swell, and we will have a human condition called elephantiasis. That is the condition that is going to develop. So this is how the condition or the disease develops. This blockage could be caused by an infection, an inflation, parasitic infection, you name it. All that can cause this blockage. So it is important to understand this lesson. So at this point, what you must know is there is high pressure, and naturally through osmosis, right, water, or rather fluid, will move from the region of high concentration, which is inside the arterial vein, to the body cells. On the same note, here we now have got a deficit. There is low pressure here, so there is now need for an osmotic balance. So the body fluids that are leaving the cells will naturally flow from the region of high concentration to the region of low concentration, and the venous side will then transport this discharge of body fluids. It will be transported for filtration by organs like the kidney and so on. So this is how the whole cycling happens, and that is the very important role that is played by lymph vessels.